Welcome to Game Savers Podcast, your next gen podcast for games reviews, news, sausage rolls, tips and tricks, life hacks, kebabs,
Yeah.
absolutely everything. It's all here. I'm Wayne. I'm your host for this week because Tony is still ill. Tony has been down and out, and no one's recuperated him yet. So we're still running without him. But get well soon, Tony. Can't
Yeah,
wait
get
to
well soon.
Revive that pilot.
Yeah, I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting on this respawn.
Indeed. That's so with me as always, we've got Alex. How's things, Alex?
Well, everything's pretty good. I'm breathing Resident Evil, as I mentioned earlier, so I'm fully immersed into this. So let's talk about Mass Effect. Hey,
How many times have you finished Resident Evil?
5 times now.
5 times already?
Yeah.
You're mad. You're mad. And Claire has been talked about many times on the podcast, but this is her first appearance. Welcome to the podcast, Claire. How's things?
Not too bad. Thank you for having me.
Good. Excited to talk about Mass Effect?
Very much so.
Excellent.
Probably too excited.
Excellent.
There's no too excited.
Good.
So again, it's out. Mass Effect Legendary Edition is out. All 3 games, the original trilogy, packaged as one. Who's got it? Claire's got it. Alex, what happened?
Well, there's this issue. There's this issue with shipments of Mass Effect. I pre-ordered the game because I wanted to play it on launch day, and it's it came out on the 14th. It's the 18th now, so it's 4 days late. It has been shipped out today, so I should be getting it by tomorrow or latest. I think it's Thursday. Then yeah, Thursday. But yeah, I haven't played it yet, and that's a bummer because I was actually really looking forward to it, since it's, I think, one of the best trilogies in video gaming history, at least in my opinion.
I think it's one of the best trilogies in history. You know.
Oh, that's coming from
video
you.
games, movies, books, and all. You know. I've got it. Claire's got it. I have played roughly the first hour of Mass Effect 1 and the first hour of Mass Effect 2. Now I know that sounds like madness, especially if you know me and you know that I'm so OCD about playing games in order. Both of those were literally just, let's see how the game runs and let's have a play with it. I'm not planning to give the full run of all 3 games just yet, but I wanted to see how it runs. Claire, how much of it have you played?
I think maybe about 5 or 6 hours just. I do think like the first hour of Mass Effect is probably the roughest hour of the game, and yeah, getting off the Citadel that's when it kicks in.
Yeah. Just that first hour reminded me again how good Mass Effect is, and we'll get into that in a bit. We'll talk about all the reasons that we love Mass Effect. But first off, I just want to talk about the remastered Legendary Edition in terms of how well it runs. Personally, was I blown away by it? Definitely not. Definitely not blown away. It still feels like you're playing a 360 game in terms of just certain little aspects of it, the animations, the lip syncing, stuff like that. There are still aspects of it that feel a little bit dated. It feels like it's got a good fresh coat of paint, but this is by no means the full-blown remake that I think some people wanted. I think that's all down to budget. You know, did you want to get the whole trilogy for 60 quid, or did you want the first one completely remastered and pay 60 quid for that game on its own? I think different people would feel differently about that. Me,
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm happy with how it's turned out, mainly because it's not a game where the graphics are first and foremost. It's not its strongest point. It never was, even when it first launched. There's so many aspects of this game that are better than that. But I'm happy with how it runs. Apart from one wee thing that we'll touch on that. But Claire, what did you think in terms of presentation and production?
I think the first impact whenever it loads up and you have the shiny new graphics and like the sound coming through the headset and stuff, it was just like jaw dropping, and it was like, you know, the old friend, you know, but done up. But there are definitely issues. I think I'd sent you a screenshot of like one cutscene, and I know what happened, but Fem Shep's neck kind of had stretched out and her arms had kind of got stretched and were a bit, and there was just this really weird, and as she moved in the cutscene, it was like freaking me out. And there's been a couple of other bits where, you know, you're in the lift and like Kaiden's face has started like as blurred as the background in the lift, and there are a few wee things like that you know, and the lip syncing as well has definitely been off.
Yeah, I mean, they talked about that before. Whenever there was some criticisms towards Andromeda, they said that the way they do the lip syncing is they don't manually do it. They have a bunch of like pre-rendered lip movements, and then they tie those up to the different words that are in the script. And it's purely because there is so much dialogue in these games that the amount of money and the amount of time it would cost to actually kind of lock in every single lip movement would just be a bit too much.
Oh, sorry. But I remember like when the game came out back in the day, it was actually pretty groundbreaking for the way that they handled the like lip syncing and all the eye movements and everything. And just doing this, it's just like a mammoth project.
Sure, absolutely.
And I mean, I still haven't played the Legendary Edition yet, but of course I've been following the coverage pretty closely from all the magazines, and also again Digital Foundry, who are doing like a really great job on showing what are the differences between the old game and the new game. And I mean, they redid a lot of like the textures and the lighting, and this is something that's really standing out. And of course I get what you're saying, that it still looks like a 360 game. I would actually go as far as say it looks like an early Xbox One PS4 game.
That's probably more accurate. I think a really good way of putting it is it now looks how you remember it, because I know if you went back and played the 360 version now, you go, this isn't as good as I look. It's almost as if they've just brought it back up in terms of your own memories. And there's nothing janky. There's nothing particularly like game breaking or annoying, except for one wee thing. And I do not know how this got past them, but if you boot the game up on Xbox One with wireless headsets connected, the game is completely unresponsive, and the only way around it is to disconnect the headphones, boot the game up, and I mean right into whatever Mass Effect it is you want to play, and then reconnect your wireless headphones. Now I am sure they will patch that in a week or two.
It's actually patched today.
Yeah,
it happened to you earlier though today.
It happened to me today, so maybe the patch is on its way within the next 12 hours.
Could be.
Like, those lines,
I read something that the patch should arrive sometime today, so could be
it
is live right now.
It did ruin the hype slightly of when I sat down and finally got it booted up, and it's like load, and I went straight back to the home screen, and it was like, oh, what?
I know that feel.
Yeah,
I think that what you're also saying, like about the Legendary, like they have brought some things up to date, but it is very much, there are still elements of a 2007 game. You know, a lot of things have come along since then.
Yeah.
One of the benefits is you can sprint slightly in the Citadel, so it's not a crawl, but it still is a very short sprint. So moving around that's offset by the fact that, you know, that using the rapid transport system.
Yeah.
It loads very quickly.
So here's one question from me, someone who hasn't played like the Legendary Edition yet. At least I read that the controls in Mass Effect 1 are massively overhauled. So how is it for you, Claire?
I think, I mean, the controls, I mean, there's still been quite a few occasions when I've accidentally thrown grenades at people because grenades map to X, which is my reload normally, and it's like... But luckily the civilians in the Citadel don't react when you throw a grenade on them, because otherwise I might have been in trouble with CSEC. But I think combat has been great so far. The shotgun, the sniper rifle is just so
satisfying,
destroys everything, and I've like no points in sniper rifle and still destroying everything. So I think apart from the few wee things, they've definitely improved it a lot, and especially in combat is...
All right.
Yeah, whenever I played like that hour of Mass Effect 1, I was thinking the exact same things. Like this just feels a little snappier, a little smoother, a bit more responsive. I mean, 60 frames per second can often help that. You know, games just feel a lot more responsive with that faster frame rate. But they've definitely changed it. That being said, then when I moved into Mass Effect 2, that feels even better again because it always did. And I almost regret playing a little bit of Mass Effect 2 because I know now that when I go back to the first one, I'm going to be like, oh, this cover system is just broken. It doesn't work. One other wee thing that they've updated in the Legendary Edition, and I think this is really good, is there was a mistake in the first one. There was a character who was meant to hate humans, and he was a Turian, but they used a human character model for him. He only shows up in a certain hologram. And so there's this human standing giving off about how he hates humans, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, this never really quite made sense. And they've just replaced that character model with an Turian to fix that sort of slight mistake. And it just goes to show, they have done a lot of work on this. I know I may be playing down how much of an improvement it is, but they have put a lot of work on it. You've probably seen the development diaries yourselves where it shows you each layer. They add on, here's the change we made to the lighting, here's the change we made to the textures, and they slowly build up the new version of the game using each sort of graphical pass as they go through it. And it is very impressive. It's very good. Do you guys think did this need a remaster?
Oh, especially the first game, absolutely. Like I tried to replay the original trilogy, the Xbox 360 releases, booted into Mass Effect 1 on the Xbox One back in the day. I was like, oh, this aged very, very poorly. Like, if you remember, we talked a little bit earlier this week about games that aged poorly, and I think Mass Effect 1 is totally one of those games. Sure, it is one of the greatest sci-fi games ever. I think it's even one of the best role-playing games ever. But just like the controls, they feel so stiff. The frame rate is so extremely uneven. Sometimes it like totally tanks into even in the tens, and it's just like stuttering all over. And don't get me started on the Mako. So
I still managed to get stuck on my first mission.
Oh, really?
Don't get me wrong, it is significantly better, but I mean, it still handles like crap. And I accidentally drove up onto a gate and ended up like that and spent 5 minutes slowly rocking back and forward until I was able to right myself.
That sounds familiar.
But it wouldn't be the Mako if it would be like difficult to handle, right?
If they'd fixed it completely, it would have ruined half the charm.
Yeah. Look. Oh, sorry.
No,
go ahead. So since we're talking about the Mako, I don't know if you guys remember in Mass Effect 3, there is this one scene where two characters, I don't know whose characters, talking about the pros and cons of the Mako. It's pretty early on. You remember this?
I don't remember it.
It's totally hilarious, and they actually put this into the game because they want to show like the both sides of the community, because there are some diehard fans in the community who just love the Mako because it is so janky, and then there's a part of the community who say, oh, it's like the worst piece of crap that ever like wasn't in the video game. And so they put this dialogue into the game. It's pretty early on, like 2-3 hours in, and they just like keep talking about, but the Mako is like the greatest vehicle ever built, and the other character is like, no, it's a piece of shit.
I think in some ways there's actually nothing wrong with the Mako, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. I've played this before, and I'm trying to get from point A to point B in the Mako. We're talking Mass Effect 1 here, and I'm just going over the rockiest, steepest, most like impragmatic terrain you can think of whatsoever. And then you go online and you watch a video of someone else playing it, and they like just drive around the corner and they get to it without having to deal with any of that. It's the fact that we're just trying to take the quickest point from point A to point B rather than, just drive around the flipping mountain,
That's because trying to get it to turn was never great either. It was easier just to kind of force it in a straight line.
My biggest issue was anytime it has a jump button, and I think that's one of the most awkward things about it. And when you're kind of, say you're going up like a 45-degree angle and you press jump, you kind of expect a vertical jump, but it doesn't jump vertically. It jumps at 90 degrees from whatever
jumping
surface
off the mountain or whatever.
You're actually jumping
Still does
away.
that. Still does
It
that.
still does that.
Although they have put it in now that if you flip and you hit that button, it rights you.
It rights
you. Oh,
you.
Really?
Excellent.
So that if you're driving up a mountain and you hit jump by mistake to get over a bit and you go flying backwards, you can still right yourself. You're not completely.
Superb.
Oh man.
Claire, the question: Do you think it was due a remaster? Do you think it was worth doing?
I definitely I think so, because we're saying this is one of the greatest series ever, and I have seen loads of comments online of people playing it for the first time. Because like I
Yep.
mean, the first one, the Mass Effect one, only ever came out on the Xbox, like we mentioned earlier. So like PlayStation only ever got to play 2 and 3, and like
Mm.
any younger any gamers, say like in their 20s or whatever, or anyone younger, you're saying to them this is the greatest series ever, but the first one's absolutely awful, and it is like it's aged really bad, and like the inventory system still sucks,
Oh.
and there are so many things that are from but you can ignore that when you've got everything else, and I think it's going to
Mm.
bring in so many more people, which will, with the new one coming out, hopefully bring in a lot more fans to get invested in it.
So you're saying we're finally get a fourth Mass Effect game?
It's coming.
Well,
It's apparently coming.
I'm trying to not get excited, but I couldn't
I think.
help it.
I mean,
First
there was
trailer.
there was a dig there at Andromeda, clearly, but I think everyone feels so shitty about Andromeda that it's like it's not even a joke. Like, that is just serious. There isn't a fourth Mass Effect game.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm very much in the minority in that I
Tolerate it.
Wayne's heard this rant many a time. Like, I didn't hate Andromeda, and I actually think there was a very good story in there. And I think I blame Anthem. I blame the fact that they thought that they were gonna have this great game with Anthem and stripped resources away from Andromeda. And as soon as the first bit of criticism came out, they just canned it and dumped everything into Anthem. And then we all know how Anthem went, and they were left with two absolutely half-assed properties. If they'd committed to one or the other, I think. I mean, I'm still raging that we never got the DLC for Andromeda. I had to go and buy a book to find out what happened, and I haven't even read the book because I still feel so put out that I'm having to sit and read a book.
For me, the biggest problem with Andromeda was they dropped the Mass Effect structure and they tried to make what I can only describe as an Ubisoft game. It was just this Mass Effect open world with a million things to do, a to-do list on a map. Just nope, no, thank you.
Well, this could have worked, but I just approached it completely wrong. And I think, just like Claire said, they dumped everything resource-wise on Anthem because it's apparently going to be, and I'm going to requote, the Bob Dylan of video games. Is that what they said? Yeah, that's what they said. That's why the working title for the game was Dylan. It's going to be the Bob Dylan of video games.
That is a horrific metaphor. Like that is just the worst, because everyone knows Bob Dylan can't even sing. Regardless of whether you like his music or not, he's not a good singer.
Yeah.
I think something else I read about Andromeda today. Now, don't take this as gospel, but you know the way in Mass Effect 1 through to 3, every species or every race has their own way of talking. So with a Turian, there'll be a slight rasp on their voice. With a what was Rex? Sorry, Claire.
Krogan.
So the Krogans.
The
Krogans have much more of like almost like a growly voice. The Geth have that like electronic-y sort of, obviously robot-y type voice.
Solarian have that very kind of stop-starty, to the point.
Factual. That's a really good one. Yeah. See, in Mass Effect Andromeda, everyone, regardless of race or species, talks like a human being. And to me, this is just lazy.
Yeah. I mean, this just shows that they basically scrapped everything that they had together in like 18 months or something, and then just, we need to ship the game because people want to play this game, and just ship it. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna have the BioWare magic.
That was the kind of thing of ship out anything, people will buy it, and before games started getting the absolute pushback on that, and then you had games that went away and fixed it and stuff, and that I maybe it was just because it was the first one that I was so excited about, but it seemed to be the first one that had everyone was so excited about, and then literally overnight when it came out, just the internet, just like the vitriol against it and everything about it, and no one said anything positive, and everyone was just hating on every little aspect of it. And that kind of quickly seemed to kill it off. And then they patched a fair few things, and a lot of people went back to it and went, actually, do you know what? Maybe this isn't as bad as we thought, and
Mm.
I still think there was potential.
I think
That's
I think
what
it's
hurts. That's what hurts. It
yeah.
had
I get
potential.
you. Like I know totally where it come from. Like me being a diehard Halo fan, and then there was Halo 5. Yikes! So let's maybe get this back to the Legendary Edition.
I was
So
about to say we've
so-
bunked on Andromeda enough.
yeah. So here just one thing that came to my mind, and I wanted to ask you guys. Since Mass Effect Andromeda, like pretty much damaged reputation that BioWare had, and the Mass Effect series in general got after that. Do you think that the Legendary Edition it's gonna like solve this issue?
I'd like to answer that, because I think I'll go one further than that. I think not only is it making people forget about Andromeda, I think it's making people forget about the ending of Mass Effect 3 as well. I think there's now an acceptance
Oh no,
of
I
that.
think in about 2 weeks all those arguments are going to stop once everyone's played through it.
I think those who know, I think there seems to be an acceptance of it, and of it's still worthy of criticism. We still don't like how it ended, but I think there's a buzz about Mass Effect again. There's an excitement. People are happy to play it again, and I'm not seeing very many sort of oh god, I'm gonna have to go through Mass Effect 3 again. Everyone seems really happy. Everyone seems really excited to play these games, and I do think it's going to put Mass Effect back on a pedestal. I think it's gonna really reinvigorate the series, and fans' love for it.
Is that maybe
Definitely.
because more people have come around to realize that the last 10 minutes of Mass Effect 3 are not the ending? Mass Effect 3 in general is pretty much the ending. I know people talking about your decisions don't matter, blah, blah, blah. They matter through that game.
Yeah.
It's, I get the last 10 minutes didn't live up the hype, or the last hour, whatever. But the rest of that game is still phenomenal.
Yeah.
And there are still some payoffs based on your choices through that game.
Absolutely.
No other series has ever come close to emulating. And I am thinking now I'm probably going to be crying my eyes out quite a lot over the next couple of weeks. Although no, I'm playing Renegade. I'm going to just be all hard and
You're
not
just gonna
get
be
all
like
attached.
badass.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, don't look
we'll
at
see
me
how
like
long
that.
it
I'm gonna
lasts.
kill you.
I've been very much enjoying pushing people up against walls and threatening them, and maybe I should channel that into work.
I'm just thinking about like this one reporter. Was it actually Mass Effect 1 that's she just keeps like reporting on stuff that's happening in the game?
Yeah.
And when you're a renegade, you just keep being mean to her. And I think at some point you just like slap her, right?
I cannot wait. That's because I've met her once, and I just remember like in the first game getting so frustrated with her. And yeah, so the first time she starts, just absolutely laid into her. And it's the same with Connor Vernon. That's not quite his name. Like your biggest fan.
Oh yeah,
He's already, because I've already basically told him to fuck off and leave me alone. And he's already after 2 meetings going, oh, so you're too big for your little guy. I'll show you and stuff. And it is just so much fun.
Let's get into this then, because although Claire and I have dabbled with the Legendary Edition, we've all played the original trilogy back in the day, and I just want to talk about. I've said this before 100 times. I think it is the best trilogy of all time. As much of a Star Wars fan as I am, I don't think anything comes quite as close to Mass Effect.
Jar Jar Binks likes it.
Lord of the Rings. But I want to ask you guys, what makes this game so good? What makes this trilogy like one of the best trilogies of all time?
I think one thing that stands out compared to a lot of other trilogies, in my opinion, is the writing. Like it's so intrusive. Not intrusive, but it's just like well thought out. You can really tell there's like a bigger story arc behind this. And there were absolutely some plans made when they developed Mass Effect 1 that it just like carried over until the last game. I mean, it basically starts with, this is going to be like a Reaper invasion. Hey, everybody, watch out. And then it's like 3 games later and it actually happens. And just the way it is carried out. This is something that I hope that BioWare would do with Knights of the Old Republic. But hey, at least we got Mass Effect.
I think that is the big, and I think that's actually one of the things that was missing probably most from Andromeda. And as well, like most people say, like Mass Effect 1 was the best story. And I think a lot of that was to do with Dean Kapinski or whatever his name is. I can't
Drew,
remember.
Drew Karpyshyn.
That's the I got it completely wrong. Yes,
Kapinski.
I even got the first name wrong too. But like he was like I think the main writer, and he did most of the world building and stuff. And I do even think like in 2 and 3, I mean, especially the ending, you have to do wonder what that last hour would have been if he'd still been involved. And I mean, they set out as we are making a trilogy, and they stuck to that. A lot of other games would have, oh, this is getting very successful. Possibly could have dragged it out more.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's like building your codex, and the fact that we were talking like each race is so distinct, and something I hadn't realized until the last few days. It's like, you know, like if you're like the Paragon Renegade, you actually have an effect. It's only recently come out that you can actually have an effect on other members of the party. You can actually drag Ashley up the Paragon scale if you're playing Paragon and take her out, and it's they've actually been able to go in now and. Same as like and you can drag Kaiden the other direction, more renegade and stuff. No other game does that with NPCs, especially. You know, your character might develop, but very little games can you have that impact and lasting impact.
Yeah,
on the world around you.
And again, I think this is something that they started off in Knights of the Old Republic, because to me, a lot of times it feels like a KOTOR is like the blue pause for what Mass Effect actually became.
Yes,
it's so similar, like the way the world is built, the way the dialogues are written, and geez, like you said, Wayne, one of the best series ever.
Yeah, the writing. I mean, the writing to me is just absolutely top notch, and the thing I love about it is all of the lore matters. All of the lore ties into stories that you experience. I know there's games like Destiny, and to me, Destiny, and I played all of the first game, and I maybe put 100 hours into the second game before going, you know what, this isn't for me. But Destiny felt like a game where there was the lore, and then there was the story that you were playing, and the link between those two was tenuous at most. With Mass Effect, you know, right off the bat, especially if you read the prequel book, and I know I'm starting to sound like a broken record when I talk about the prequel book, but you go into that first game already knowing about the First Contact War, knowing who the Turians are, who the Geth are, who the Quarians are, and the relationship between all those different species. It's all plotted out right from the start, and you get to experience all of that through the story. I mean, my favorite story arc, we probably should have said that way at the start, but you know, spoiler alert throughout this whole podcast, is the Genophage story arc. I think is absolutely brilliant. And the other thing about that is I play video games, and a month later, if you ask me about them, I'm going, I remember this wee bit and I remember that wee bit. I remember so much about Mass Effect, despite only having played the first game twice because Rex died, so I had to restart immediately. And then I played 2 and 3, and I still remember so much from them, and that is rare for me. And to me, that's testament of the writing. You know, all that lore, all those backstories of the wars between the different species and the relationships between, you know, how Turians feel about humans, how humans feel about Turians, and even some of the smaller, weirder kind of species and races. I think all of that is just so absorbing. You know, I've never wanted to read and learn so much about a game as I have with Mass Effect. Like, I know that many games, you know, whenever you stop and you find little collectibles and they've got a little bit of backstory and stuff, most games, for the first third of the game, I'll be reading all of those and making sure, and then after that you kind of go, I'll collect them and read them later. But with Mass Effect,
and you never read them.
But with Mass Effect, you genuinely do, you know, stop and take your time, asking characters every single question you can, because you just want to learn more and more about this universe. To me, that is without a doubt. That's the reason why we forgive the slightly shoddy combat, or if, you know, lip syncing isn't right and we're kind of nitpicking at little things like that. It doesn't matter, because the story, the lore, the writing, and the characters are just like better than any video game ever. And I know that's a bold statement, but that is genuinely how I feel.
No, look, I totally agree with that. And I think most of this can also can be credited to the first Mass Effect game. to you have like a pretty good and charismatic antagonist in this game, like Saren. I think he's one of the best antagonists that you have like in any like sci-fi role-playing game. And right from the get-go, even when you start out in Even Prime, he's present and he gives you his motive, and that's just what I love about the game. He's present throughout the entire game. There are so many games there's like, okay, hey, here's this big bad evil. Then you don't see the big bad evil for like 15 hours, and they're like, oh guys, remember me? And this is totally not the case. And again, a testament to excellent writing.
I think also like it's like whenever you battle him, then you can convince him that he's indoctrinated and he kills himself, and it's like you know, you just don't expect a game to do that, and then to have his body reanimated and have to like actually fight him and stuff again. It's like I just remember playing through it the first time and thinking I've never played a game like this before, and was down to little things like, you know, overhearing conversations and like walking past people, and you'd be like, they'd be talking about, you know, oh, such and such is on this planet or whatever, and you'd be like, I hope they're okay, and you'd be like, I found something from that, or it felt real. And I think I remember it was in like 2 getting sent emails from people that you'd helped in the first game because it carried over your save and that all fed. And I remember like getting the first one of those came through, just jaw on the floor, like, you know, that's had such an, you know, I'd never been played anything like that before. I'm not sure I have either since.
That concept where you make literally hundreds of decisions throughout the game. I think it might even be in the thousands. I think I remember reading something, by the time you get to Mass Effect 3, you've transferred something like 10,000 decisions into the game. But I remember that and going, oh wow, this is what video games are going to be like now. You know, we're going to get these series of games where our actions matter, you know, 4 years down the line when you're playing this game.
And now we're sitting here in 2020. Now we're sitting here in 2021 and play like 4-hour shooter campaigns.
But I can't think of many other games that have sort of implemented this, and even close to the way that the BioWare have. I think the Walking Dead, you know, the Telltale games, they would be the closest thing to them, but they are so focused on story that there isn't that sort of adventure and experience that you get with Mass Effect.
And a lot of those decisions in the end that don't really matter.
Yeah, and again, it's another thing that Mass Effect does so well that no other games have managed to pull this off. Like, genuinely, without a doubt, no one else has.
And a lot of those choices aren't black and white either. I mean, I know there's a lot of talk about Renegade and Paragon and stuff, but a lot. I definitely remember there was a couple of cases I was trying to play full Paragon and some things popped up Renegade. I was like, no. But I mean, it's like, you know, if you're, you know, like the Arachni and stuff, you know, you have these decisions of do you kill or not and stuff, and you can see like both sides have been wronged. Both like even the Geth and Quarians, you know, like it's both sides. You see their side. Both sides have done unspeakable evils.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong answer as such. And the same with the Krogans and the Genophage. It's awful, but at the same time, they were going to could have wiped out the universe.
It's that moral ambiguity where you're sitting going, I don't even know which one is the Paragon and which one's the Renegade option here. You know, I just got to choose. Because one thing I love about the dialogue is your options can kind of come up like a little earlier than you have to choose them.
Yes.
So you can choose your dialogue options in a manner that the dialogue, it just flows. You know,
I've been so impressed with that.
It's not like a Telltale game where someone says something and then you've got a 3-second pause while you choose what to say, and someone says something and then you wait again. It flows, and it's so well done.
It feels so much more natural, like an actual conversation is happening.
Absolutely.
But those decisions where it's kind of like, who are you siding with here? Those are the ones where you do kind of stop and go, I pretty much have to murder these 1,000 people or these 1,000 people, you know. Great, just great. We touched a wee bit on the writing there, and you can't write a story and you can't write a video game without writing characters. So, and I know who's going to be the first to be said here, but I'll ask the question: who are your favorite characters throughout the game?
Garrus.
Claire, yeah. Why
Garrus though?
Why Garrus?
Because he's your bro. he's
Yeah.
your mate. He was just like the way. I mean, like in the first one, sort of playing through, and like there's that learning to respect each other, you know, because he's coming from like the Taurians and the humans don't really get on, but use there for common enemy and stuff. And like I remember like in 2, and I just remember the feeling of like you were playing through and you were hunting someone called Archangel, was it Archangel or whatever?
Archangel? Yep. I
Yeah.
remember that.
And then I remember that cutscene kicking in, and I think I screamed at TV. It's like, it's Garrett! And it was like, oh my god! And
Yeah,
like,
that was a good mission.
Yeah.
just the excitement of him coming back in, and it's just I don't know, and that's probably one of the things I'm most excited about playing as FemShep this time is I can't get him in 1, but I'm going for him down the line. He romance option. And then Tally's the opposite because she's just so sweet and pure. And then that was the other, whenever in 3, like massive spoilers, I thought I was sitting feeling all proud of myself because I think it like united like the Geth and the Koreans, and I thought this is it, you know. And then she like committed suicide. I suppose that's in the trailer actually, so it's not really a big spoiler.
I mean, it's like an old game, so
yeah, but it was just one of them moments of like, you know, you're sitting there and I thought I'd done it right. I thought I'd done every choice correctly and I'd done the right thing and I'd saved whatever. And then that happened and you couldn't stop it. And it was just crushing. So
Alex, any favorite characters?
Yeah, I actually have 2 characters, if that's fine with you. So
first of all, as many as you want.
So first of all, all characters are heroes in this game, right? So no, but for real, I think Morden Solus is one of my favorite characters.
Yes.
Because like Claire mentioned earlier, just like his stop go wait that he talks through the entire game or like through 2 games. I just love this, and just there's this one scene where you can get him to sing like a musical piece in Mass Effect 2. And when I first saw this, I was like, "This is hilarious! This is so funny." having like an alien singing some kind of musical.
I am a Solarian scientist. It's an old like my school actually had done that play.
Oh, really?
Whenever we were younger, yeah.
Nice. So, and not just because he's a funny character, but also like the story arc that he has, because he's responsible for the genophage that's like been going on, and that's why the Krogans had all the issues. And he like his redemption arc, you could say, from Mass Effect 2 to Mass Effect 3, where he basically still comes down on how you choose to approach it. But every time I played it, like he sacrificed himself to cure the genophage. And I think this, I was just sitting there and was like, damn those ninjas in the room here. Like,
it's like have to do it, someone else would have got it wrong or something, and just like I know you have to do it, but yeah.
Absolutely. And then like the other character, it's not like a part of the main cast, you could say, but basically he is Joker, like the pilot of the Normandy. He's like every time I talked to him, I had the feeling like, okay, this is some like cool kind of space cop buddy comedy, and he always has like a witty line on his in his mouth, kind of like, and also like the romance thing that he has going on with Edie.
Yeah.
Was it Edie? I don't remember. Edie, yeah. That was just really, really cool. And so also brought up some questions, like, are you allowed to love a robot? Is a robot allowed to love a human? And I know this is pretty philosophical, so I'm not going to go too deep into this, but Joker.
I wonder, is that, I don't know if anyone follows a lot of Star Wars stuff, but like Lando Calrissian.
I heard of it.
Lando Calrissian had a thing for a robot as well, and I wonder, did they lift that from Mass Effect? Is that where they got the idea from?
Yeah,
I did get that sort of feeling.
Yeah. Now that you're saying it, actually never noticed it, but you're damn right.
So some of the other characters I really liked. I enjoyed Jack. I like that sort of real sort of badass attitude, but at the same time you could tell that there was more going on underneath the surface, you know.
Her growth into 3, whenever she's went away and she's taken on and protecting, you know, like other biotics and stuff after, you know, it that was so, that was a
really like Thane as well, just purely off the back of him being a Promethean and looking really damn cool. There was loads of scenes where they had the lighting on him really, really cool, and it kind of made it look almost like a noir film or something. Fantastic. Thought he was great in it. Garrus, obvious one, but everyone likes Garrus.
He's everybody's bro.
Yeah. What about no love for Ashley and Kaiden?
Nah, I think that I think they're the most boring characters actually.
They absolutely are.
I read something this week that makes perfect sense. The reason people think Kaiden is boring is his story happens before the game. He's like a biotic too. He's went, he's a seasons, he's learned to deal with all of this, and he's come out and he's been through a load of campaigns and he's a seasoned soldier. He's had all that development before the game, and so there's no development left really for him.
Story. Yeah, I get what you mean. I think the other thing is, you see these new worlds and you see the Turians and the Quarians and the Geth and all these really, really cool looking things. So a couple of just normal looking human characters, they just don't grab you the same way the rest of the characters do within these games. And I know it's not just a visual thing, it's just not that they don't look sci-fi enough. It is strength of the writing as well. I think the other characters just are written better. Yeah.
And then I think in 3 they then suffer because they had to write, both characters as the one. So they had to come up with a storyline basically that both of them could fit into, even though they were very different characters. So it kind of that, I think.
Moving on from the writing and the characters then, other things that we'll love about this game, and there's something I'll mention. I think this game can be played how you want to play it. And I'll explain exactly what I mean by that. You literally could just set all your supporting characters to auto attack and then run through this game like it's Gears of War. You could speak to very, very few people and have it be a very heavy combat focused game. Or you could ask every single question of every single person while controlling your teammates like an RPG and constantly using that. If you hold the bumper button, you get that like wheel where you can use your squad mates to do certain attacks at certain enemies, and it's just open to be played as you want to play it. And I think the first time I played the first Mass Effect, I kind of was playing it just like in the action sequences. This is just a shooter. This is just a normal shooter. And then as I got to grips with it and started to understand what was happening, I was starting to use my squad mates' abilities. What do you call the
Biotics.
like the biotics? Yeah, and sort of leaning into that. Because I have a habit of the first time I play a game, I'll always play as like the most standard class, like soldier. I kind of regretted not having as many biotic abilities. But I love that, and I've said that about a lot of games. Let the player play the game how they want to play it. And I think Mass Effect does that in spades.
Yeah. Like, I think I disagree a little bit. Like, I'm usually like you when it comes to role-playing games. For example, when I play Dark Souls.
You don't like Dark Souls, do you?
No, I don't like Dark Souls. But I usually, with these type of games, I usually take like to create like a tank character, and that's what I do all the time. And even when I try to do like a sorcerer or something, just 5 hours later, okay, I'm here with a big ass sword again, doing this again. It's like never gonna work for me. With Dark Souls, I mean, Jesus.
So what
God damn it. Yeah, we're in the Dark Souls podcast, Dark Souls. Yeah, no. But with Mass Effect, I always had the feeling like you actually need to master more than just shooting. You need to master a little bit of the biotics to really get a grip of the game and to finish like certain quest lines. And I get what you're saying. There is a way to play it the way you want, but then you're just leaving like huge chunks of the game out of it completely.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think it's not that free, if you will.
See, I kind of disagree there, because whenever I started playing it, I hadn't really played all those games before, and I genuinely probably wasn't very good. So I started as the very standard soldier, Paragon, male shepherd, and I was checking like my achievements and stuff today. The only combat or biotic one I got was shotgun.
All right.
In a playthrough, I never figured out how to do the powers or the biotics or anything. I literally ran through that game with a shotgun and just blasted anything in the face, which may explain why I struggled quite a bit in some fights. But this time I've went for biotics, and as I'm saying, I've now reverted to the sniper rifle, which isn't quite what I planned on doing. I need to actually practice the biotics.
I actually remember the fight in the first one. I think it was the matriarch.
Matriarch is exactly the one.
now that I think of it, there's actually been 2 games now where I've been stuck on a boss called the Matriarch. The other one being
Oh, what's the other one?
Gears 5.
Oh yeah.
That was necessarily
Um,
you. That was I kept dying. That was all my fault.
we but I remember that fight and just thinking this isn't cutting it. Like, I am not getting through this boss, and I don't know why. And that's whenever I started experimenting a little bit and trying to work out what else I can do with powers, squad mates, all that sort of thing. And finally
Speaking
got
of
through it.
quality of life changes they have made, they have switched the save to after cutscenes. So that if you go into a boss battle with a cutscene, like maybe in the Matriarch, and you die, you then don't have to sit through the whole cutscene again. Which, if you're
Thank
wiping
God.
out quite a lot, is it kind of rubs it in your face a wee bit, and you kind of get a bit, or maybe that's just me, get a bit frustrated after. So yeah, that's another big change I think they've made. So
any other aspects of the games that you guys think like sort of made this game what it was?
Yeah, it's something that we touched on briefly earlier. Like bringing back characters in later games that you met in earlier games, and I'm just like actually finishing off their story arcs. I think Jack is a good example, or I don't know the name of the character, but this is one character. He's like being experimented on by his father, and he's like one of the characters of the DLC. You just free him basically.
Was he like an older guy with scarred face?
Again with
No,
Zed?
a younger guy. It was a younger guy actually. And in Mass Effect 3, you find him again, and he always had some like mathematics stuff going on. And in Mass Effect 3, he starts off with, you don't recognize him because it looks totally different. In Mass Effect 2, he looked like a living machine. In Mass Effect 3, he looked like a human. And he starts this dialogue off with like a mathematical equation, and then like, oh shit, that's him. He changed so much. And this is something that that you see throughout all 3 games. And just like some story arcs start in the first game, finish off in the 3rd game. Some story arcs started in the 2nd game, finish off in the 3rd game. And that's just great. And it really enriches the game, in my opinion.
I remember when Mass Effect 3 came out, and like part of the big story of Mass Effect 2 was building this squad up. And there's a little bit of that in Mass Effect 3 as well. I remember thinking when Mass Effect 3 came out, like, I don't want a new squad. I want all my old buddies back. Give me my old buddies, But having, as you say, having them in there in Mass Effect 3 and meeting those characters, and it's not just fan service, it's not just throwing them in there for the sake of it.
Yeah.
They're there for a reason. They serve the story.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what makes it work as well. You're getting new characters that you get attached to as well, but you're getting to meet those old characters as well and see what's happening with them.
Also, one thing I think all, or for the most part, the games did right was DLC. I mean, DLC is like a pretty common thing nowadays, but just think about the Shadow Broker DLC.
Yes.
Like, how good was that?
That was outstanding.
That's one of the, when people come to me and they say, like, what was the best DLC? Give me an instance of DLC where you didn't feel ripped off, where you didn't feel like something got cut out of the game, where you paid a little bit of extra money and got something of absolute worth. It's that Shadow Broker DLC.
Yeah, definitely.
Story wise, it is absolutely great. And again, it's taken an established character that you've already, played with, and like continuing on their story arc.
Mm.
Claire, you were going to say something there?
I was the other big thing for me that I'd never really come across before in a game. It's like when you're playing a game and you get told like, oh, you have a mission, and there's a timeline and stuff. Usually, if it's being serious, you've got a countdown or whatever. So in the second one, the moment where your crew is captured, and it's the start of the big mission to go and like rescue them and stuff. Is that the suicide one, or is that is the suicide one?
Yeah, that sounds right to me.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily take it seriously because I hadn't finished all my loyalty missions. It's like, oh, that's awful, because that's the bit where you get to play as Joker and stuff, which I thought was great as well, because you were having to move very slowly because of his injuries and all.
Yeah.
So you come back and your crew's being captured, and it's awful, but it's a game. So I went off and made sure to get, because it was a big thing of like, if you have all the loyalty, you have a better chance of succeeding. And I didn't want to lose anyone, so I went off and I took my time and made sure I got all my loyalty missions done and collected all the resources, so I was as ready to get as I could. And I went off to do the mission, and I remember walking into the chamber and seeing Kelly getting sucked into the tube and liquefied in front of me. And just this moment of horror of Dr. Chakwas being the only survivor, and then Googling it and finding out I could have saved them. Had I come earlier in the game, I could have saved them. And so that's an example of not even the character decisions really mattering. It was me as a player. I killed my crew, and I've never in a game. It was the first thing that had happened, and like, I'm going to rectify that this time round. I'm going to make sure before I trigger that mission, I have all my loyalty missions done and stuff, because I'm not going to save them this time.
That was pretty brutal in Mass Effect 2, because there's consequences to your actions without you even being aware of it. You know,
most games don't.
You think you're,
absolutely.
You're not thinking in terms of the galaxy needs saved. You're thinking in terms of video game, as in gotta do my side missions before I finish the story. You know, and the world is rolling on while you're doing that, and people die because of it. It is funny. It actually reminds me of there's certain parts in the game where there's kind of quieter, more calm moments, like going to the bar and having a few drinks and a dance, and I'm sitting thinking, what are you up to, Shepard? The world is literally on fire. You got to have something better to do than go to the pub. You know,
you need to chill. You always need to chill, otherwise you burn out. If you don't recharge, there's going to be no use to anyone.
But also, like the world is, or the universe is not saved like within 5 minutes. So hey, just drink a pint, it's gonna be fine. And then like 20 hours later, there goes my crew member. Shit.
yeah.
If I just taken this 5 minutes
worth Jimmy's life.
But again, it's incentive to replay the game, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, like I said,
definitely.
I replayed Mass Effect 1. Like literally as soon as the credits rolled, I was like, I'm playing this again, because I need my save game to have Rex alive.
I can't believe you let him die. What kind of person are you?
Even though I don't remember what I'd done that let him die, but it wasn't like a conscious choice of I'm going to go against him.
No, I think if your Paragon or Renegade level isn't high enough, you can't save him. And I think Ashley shoots him in the back of the head. It's something to do with finding out the genophage was there, and if you destroy this base to save Saren, or sorry, to take out Saren, you'll destroy the genophage cure. And I think that's what it is. And Rex is like, basically, we need to save my people, and to save the mission, I think Ashley shoots him in the back of the head if you don't talk him down. Whereas, like, if you have a high enough level, either way, you can persuade him of, yes, this is awful, but you know, the whole galaxy needs saved. So
a little bit cheated, you know, because if I had a shot him, fair enough, my call. It was the fact that Ashley had done it. And then whenever I think after that is when you get to make the decision between saving either Ashley or Kaiden.
Yeah.
And it was a no-brainer for me, you know, because Ashley killed Rex, so she's gone. Like, I didn't even think about it.
No, it was a very simple choice for me as well. I didn't particularly like her.
I think another great thing about that game is how iconic a lot of it became so very, very quickly. Like, to me, the Normandy, SR1, SR2, etc., the main ship in the game, to me, I wouldn't go as far as to say it's as iconic as like the Millennium Falcon, but maybe you know, the Voyager for Star Trek, stuff like that. The DeLorean, Back to the Future. In my mind, you know, the imagery, like the picture Clair has behind her and stuff, you know, it's all just as exciting and just as iconic as any other science fiction series at the minute.
And I think this is something that's true to the entire art style of the entire series. You see something from Mass Effect, you know right away it is Mass Effect, and this is so hard to achieve. So,
absolutely, it's just, I don't know. It still amazes me how much they got right in a single series of video games. Like, there's just an insane amount. I mean, the stuff we've talked about, the lore, the stories, the characters, the how the game looks, and then melding all that into a single playable video game that just holds together. I know I say a single playable video game, it's 3 games, but
yeah,
you get the point of making.
I mean, although tied into that, it's like the one thing that was very disappointing was it, like, all coming out recently, that because at the time there was so much controversy about the fact you could have sex with aliens in a game and it was corrupting the kids, and then finding out recently that they like completely cut out male Shepard was meant to be able to have a relationship with Kaiden, but they decided it was too controversial to have a gay relationship. And then in the second one, Femshep was meant to, Jack even mentions that she's bisexual, but they cut that out because you can have a lesbian relationship with Liara because she's an alien, so it's not technically, a Sari, not really male female. And finding out down the line that they've recorded all the voice lines and stuff for the Kaiden romance, and then the chicken, and it's one of those things of I wish that they'd done it. I wish they'd had the balls to go through with it at the time, because I think it would have just added a bit more to the game.
Yeah. I think the trilogy could be held up as how do I put this? Like whenever we're looking back on times and going, there was a time when we couldn't have this sort of thing in video games, and then there was a time when we could. I mean, the 3 Mass Effect games almost bookmark that. In that short period between Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 3, there was progress already being made as to what you could and couldn't have in a video game. And it could almost be used as a historical example of the progress we're making within not just video games, but movies, storytelling, and society in general.
I think it's because at the same time, a lot of that stuff was going on with Assassin's Creed, and then originally wanting female protagonists, and then that being cut out because they didn't think it would sell, and it's like all that stuff kind of came out around at the same time, and it's like we've kind of got there now, but it would have been nice to have got there 10 years ago.
Yeah, I feel like the acceptance for stuff that video games can do that just like got way better. I know we talked about Cyberpunk a lot in the past, but I think one thing that Cyberpunk does really good, like you have really diverse relationships in the game. Just think about this. 13 years like difference, and you are able to have a relationship with a man as a man. You have a relationship, you can have a relationship as a woman with another woman. You can be a transsexual in a game and can have a relationship with whatever. And I think it's good that we're finally getting there. And I think what I'm getting is like, I think most of this we can actually credit to Mass Effect, because Mass Effect started this thing, and it was pretty prominent in the media back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny now looking at what was viewed as controversial. I mean, it's literally a fade to black, It's
very tame, right?
It's not. It is literally you going in for a kiss, and then maybe a couple of really like awkward sort of fully clothed. It's. I mean, there's nothing romantic really or sexy about it. It's a bit.
I found it was. I mean, it wasn't distasteful. No. It might have been. There may have been an element of cringe to the whole relationship thing, but it wasn't distasteful. And I'm really glad it wasn't, because I remember playing the first Mafia game. And there's a sex scene in that between what I can only describe as 2 blobs of polygons. And it is one of the most horrible, awkward things I've ever seen in a video game. It does not work. It doesn't work. And I think, we can have mature themes in a video game without it being cheesy or corny or over the top or unnecessarily explicit, And
I think a lot of it is, it's like not like you can bang your way across the ship and stuff. A lot of it is once you get to a certain stage of the romance level, it cuts off all the other options. It's not like you can. Like the first is very restrictive with who you can have a really, and then the second the options grow and stuff. But because I think first time round it was at Liara, because that was for. And then Tally, because Liara doesn't start in the game, and then meeting up with Liara, and she's like, "So you cheated on me then?" And it's like,
"Yeah,
I didn't know you were a bi." I actually can't remember which way to. But again, it's like you can't then, it's you either have to break it off with Tally or you have to go with Liara, and so it's not even.
But at least you have some like casual throwback fun with Liara at the end of Shadow Broker.
I'm looking for an article here, but I can't quite find it. I'm almost certain they've added one relationship back into the game. There's a relationship in the Legendary Edition that you cannot do within the original.
All right.
Oh, really?
Yep. Yes. There's a gay romance in Mass Effect 1 now in the Legendary Edition.
Oh, okay. That's actually good.
So if you're interested in that, I can't remember, and honestly don't want to try and read an article while I'm podcasting. So if you're interested, Google that.
Are you sure? Because I had been researching this, and I think there was hope for it, and there was rumors that they were going to add the Kaiden stuff back in, but it didn't come to fruition.
Yeah, actually, you're absolutely right. I'm having an article here open from IGN, and there are a couple. They what is it again? Shakira Romance, and it doesn't matter if you're man or woman, you can have romance.
Sorry, apologies. I just double checked the article, and it's a mod, so it's a fan mod that brings that back in.
Okay.
So my apologies. I'm glad I fact checked that.
Fake news.
I called you out.
News, I did. At the end of the podcast, no one gets this far.
Just
Don't
delete
worry.
it.
Yeah.
Just delete it. Yeah.
Yeah, but hey, Claire, this was just a test on your side to see if
Yeah.
Wayne knows the shit, right?
That was it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
He's
we
never actually
didn't-
played the game, Alex. He was just Googling beforehand.
I'm just a
I
poser.
knew
don't-
it. I knew it.
Don't even have an Xbox.
Yeah.
I'd love to sit and chat about this all night, but I think we've covered most bases for Mass Effect. If you've got this far through the podcast and you haven't played the games before, apologies for spoiling them
Sorry.
on you, but there is a lot in there. There's a lot in there that hasn't been spoiled. And I
And even when
highly
you
recommend
know, like
playing them.
a lot of what we've talked about may not happen in your playthrough and stuff. And
Exactly,
when you get
exactly.
to it, it's your
Um,
shepherd, your story.
Yeah.
And if you have played it before and you just listen to reminisce over good times, thanks very much for listening. Just before we go, Alex, can you tell us where we are on Instagram?
Sure. Like we're on Instagram now for about a month. We're on my God, Game Savers Podcast. I wanted to say Pot Savers Gamecast, but
That seems like a very different show.
Well, that's a very different show. No, it's Game Savers Podcast. We post or I post stuff there regularly, stuff that's not on the podcast, some additional stuff. So yeah, check us out there. We're on Facebook too. Wayne, you can probably tell us where this is.
Yep, just search Facebook for Game Savers Podcast and you will find us there. Also, if you're looking for anyone to follow on Twitter, I am at GameSaver_Wayne, WAYNE, and I'm always looking for a few followers on there because no one follows me, and it's sad.
I follow you. I'll follow you later. Wait, I get my phone out. I follow you now.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Yep. So thanks, Claire, for joining us for your first podcast. I hope you had some fun talking
Thank
about
you for
the
having me.
greatest trilogy of all
You're
time.
welcome.
I hope I didn't say anything horribly wrong.
We'll be the judge of that.
And
No,
Alex,
it was a blast.
cheers for coming on. We will be back next week. I can't remember off the top of my head what next week's episode is about, but that's why you should follow us on Instagram and Facebook, because then you'll get to see our little hype videos telling us what's coming up in the following week. But we are done for now. Thank you very much for listening. And as always, don't forget to save your game.